Boro suffer back-to-back defeats for the first time under Michael Carrick, as he also loses his first home game in charge. This result promotes Burnley to the Premier League and drops Boro down to 4th.
As the Uruguayan curls one in. Oh, Middlesbrough take the lead!
What is up, guys? Matthew here and welcome to another episode of Project Boro. Today we're going to be discussing Boro's defeat to Burnley on Good Friday, where we lost 2-1 in a narrow game, I would say, against, without doubt, the best team in the league by a country mile and probably the best team in Championship history. I think it's safe to say. Burnley broke the record here as the team who have got promoted with the most games to go, being 7. And although they're not going to break the points record that Reading set back in 2006, for me, this team has been head and shoulders above anything ever that we've seen, and are probably the equivalent of dropping a Premier League team in the Championship. And yeah, I think, put up a good performance last night. Now, there, of course, were people panicking, people frustrated, seeing us drop down to 4th, I think, as well as just the not the bitterness, but it's never nice seeing a team achieve what you want to achieve by beating you in your own backyard, and that's what happened here. Burnley, of course, promoted back to the promised land where we aspire to be, and seeing them running off into the away end in front of their fans, celebrating with the banners of promotion. It's hard to see that happen at the Riverside, but I think there's a little bit of an overreaction to this result, because I don't think we were as bad as people say. Now, first half, we weren't quite at it. I don't think we were poor. I think it was more so that Burnley were very, very, very good. They were fantastic in the first half, and we just, quite frankly, couldn't get near them. I mean, the team, their passing accuracy, their movement, everything about this Burnley side is just perfection, to be honest with you. They are like if Man City were dropped into the Championship. They were absolutely fantastic in the first half, and Boro, quite frankly, just couldn't get close. And thankfully, you know, we did improve as the game went on, but we conceded in the 12th minute, which I think was a unlucky goal to concede. There was a hint that Barnes was offside. I've not properly seen it myself, but yeah, a shot from, it might have been Brownhill, that looked to be going wide, was deflected from Ashley Barnes into an empty net after Stefan had been wrong-footed, and it looked as if Barnes was offside. And it was frustrating, because I think other than that, as much as Burnley dominated possession, as much as they were much better on the ball, and as much as we just couldn't really get a grip of the game, I wouldn't say they laid a glove on us offensively. Stefan wasn't forced into any really big saves, and Boro generally defended quite well. So to go 1-0 down at half-time, I think, due to a goal that was probably offside, was disappointing, albeit Burnley were the better team in the first half. The second half, though, started perfectly for Boro, and the 20-minute spell after the second half started was amazing. We were absolutely fantastic in the opening 20 minutes. We were on front foot, we were pressing them into misplaced passes, very much a flip of the first half. You know, Burnley were the ones pressing us, forcing us into mistakes. We couldn't get anything going. It flipped at the start of the second half. We were the ones who were suddenly playing the ball around, looking really good, looking really neat, creating a few opportunities. Burnley were the ones who were scuffing it out of play. They couldn't keep the ball, and Boro, quite frankly, were on top, and we got our just rewards with a penalty on the 48th minute, which may be a little bit soft. Archer went down. I've certainly seen, much more blatant tackles not be given as penalties, and I think, to be fair, Darren Bond had an absolute shocker of a game, if I'm honest. So Burnley may, have an argument of being slightly aggrieved about the penalty, but I think Boro deserved an equaliser in this period, and Chubarak Pom, of course, stepped up It was a very good penalty from Tuba, which of course was his 26th goal of the season. And after that, like I say, Boro were absolutely on top. And if anything, I honestly thought that as much as I knew Burnley would come into it, it was anyone's game at that point, and Boro had a good chance of winning it. But unfortunately, Burnley scored at the perfect time and retook the lead with former Boro loanee Connor Roberts. And this was a poor goal to concede, because I think for the most part both defences had been very solid. Neither side had gave the other much of a sniff at this point. And I could have quite easily seen this game ending 1-1. But unfortunately, it was Boro who made the defensive error, as Teller was played in down the right-hand side. Boro's defence sort of stopped, assuming he was offside, when it seemed he wasn't. And Howson didn't quite get across quickly enough. McNair, I think, was the one who played the initial pass to Teller onside. And then he didn't get across to cover Connor Roberts enough when the ball was squared back into the 6-yard area, and it was a simple tap-in for Connor Roberts. It was a poor goal to concede by Boro, and another worrying defensive error. Not a big one, but definitely a goal that should have been avoided, and Burnley took the lead. And in a narrow game such as this, it would have always been them fine margins that I think decided it. And after that, Boro huffed, they puffed, but Burnley's game management was spot on. It was frustrating for me watching in the home stand every time they'd go down, every time they'd waste time, every time they would, eke out a couple of more minutes, but we'd do the same if we were on the brink of promotion. So, they managed the game, and they do exactly what they've done all season. They are, and I don't want to spend this episode gushing over the opposition, but going forward, they are unbelievable. Defensively, they are rock solid, and they've also got game management down to a T. They're probably as close to a perfect side as you can get in this league, and Boro just couldn't quite, muster a real opening until the very, very, very death, when literally in the final minute, Akpom had a header at the back post, which he just couldn't quite get a grip of, I would have absolutely snatched a hand off for a draw, but unfortunately, it wasn't to be, and Burnley did nick the win, and it was a narrow one. I mean, people were saying after the game we were awful, we were terrible, and we weren't great, and we're at home, and you don't want to see the opposition come to the Riverside and get promoted. And of course, I understand the frustration, but I do not get this apparent call that we were awful and we were terrible. I think we were going up against the best team. They've lost only twice since November. Which is absolutely ridiculous, and I don't think we were that far off. There were a couple of performances that weren't great. I think Paddy McNair, he's come in for a lot of stick, and I think is the new scapegoat for Boro fans at the moment. Now, I will agree, he didn't look comfortable against Huddersfield. Fry should definitely have been in for that game, when it was a much more physical, long ball type of game, and he struggled against Danny Ward, and balls over the top. And you could see Burnley were trying to do something similar here today. But again, McNair, suspect for a couple of the goals. I can understand why he was maybe chosen in a game like this, where the ball was probably going to be on the ground more. We were going to have possession trampled out from the back. He's a better ball player than Fry, albeit he's not the best. But he just doesn't look like he's got the confidence at the moment. He's a little bit erratic, a little bit all over the place, and I think regardless, Dale Fry has to be back in for the game against Bristol City. I think other than that, Hackney was the only player who I think had a poor game. Ramsey wasn't great, and Archer just couldn't quite get into the game, I think. But Hackney, he also had a bit of a poor game. I think the problem with Hackney is he set himself such high standards with what has been a unbelievable dream breakthrough season. Let's not forget, this kid was playing for Scunthorpe in League 2 last season, the worst team in the Football League. They've also just been relegated from the National League pretty much. So to make the step up he's made is incredible, and the run he's had is amazing. But I think maybe the games are catching up with him a bit, and especially against a team and a midfield as good as Burnley's. Time on the ball is minimal, and you have to be that extra yard quicker, that extra second quicker with your decision making, and he wasn't quite up to it, I feel. So, 2 or 3 performances, but I wouldn't say we were anywhere near as bad as what people suggested. We just went up against a very, very, very good side, and I think it was a narrow defeat. I mean, looking at the stats, we actually had the better expected goals. We were only just beaten in terms of shots. We had the same number of big chances. They had a couple more passes than us, and their pass success was only 4% more than us. The stats show, even possession-wise, that there was not a million miles between these two sides. I mean, yes, looking at the table, 20 points difference, I get it. But as for the game last night, Boro weren't a million miles off, and I think we need to have some perspective in terms of how far this team has come, because if the Boro team of October had played this Burnley side last night, I dread to think what the score would have been. So I think it shows how far we've came in a short period of time, that we have gave the team who've probably won the league or will win the league a tight game, and they've had to work for it. They've had to work for it, and they've edged it, in my opinion. Now, I think what adds to the frustration, of course, is the overall look of what this has done, because looking at the championship table, of course, it's back-to-back defeats for Boro, which, you know, once upon a time was probably normal, but under Carrick has not happened before. So I'm not worried by this. We often bounce back really well under Carrick, and yeah, the Huddersfield performance was a freak, and then it's followed up by the best team in the league. So I'm not worried that we've lost back-to-back defeats. I think it's a case of what happened elsewhere. And of course, Sheffield United won again. They had a narrow 1-0 win over Wigan, a game that they dominated. They should win. But again, they've edged out and got the job done when they needed to. And Luton Town got a point away at Millwall in a 0-0 draw. So they've edged 1 point clear of us, which knocks us down to 4th. Sheffield United are now 9 points clear with a game in hand. And I said in the last video, after we lost Huddersfield, that the top two was over. It's even more over with now. I think we need to just stop talking about it, to be honest with you. I mean, there's every chance Burnley will beat Sheffield United on Monday, and if we beat Bristol City, the gap's down to 6. But we're only back to where we were 1 game ago, but we're 2 games closer to the end of the season. And I think with 5 games left, turning over a 6-point deficit at the very best, having played a game more, isn't going to happen. I'm sorry. As you know, I'm sure there's plenty of optimistic Boro fans out there. I'm one of the more glass half full Boro fans. Top 2 is gone. So the fight for 3rd is the key. Now, Luton are currently 3rd. They're on an amazing run, playing unbelievably well. I still think, you know, Boro will finish in the playoffs without doubt. I think we would need an absolute collapse, and we've got too much quality in the squad and too much of a level-headed manager for a collapse to happen. And I think we'll get right back on it against Bristol City. The key game for me is the one that comes after that, which I won't get into too much at this point, but it's Norwich City. And if the gap to Norwich is still 7 points come the next Friday, then it's a big game, because if we win, we're 10 points clear of 7th. If we lose, we're 4 points clear of 7th, and then it starts getting a bit nervy. So the Norwich game next Friday is huge. It's a must-not lose for me. I would take a draw in all fairness, although it's a game I think we should win, and it could be a preview of the playoff semi-final. But I still think very much we're in a fight for 3rd with Luton. It probably will go all the way, to be fair, and we do have to travel there 3 games from the end, or it might be 2 games from the end. I think it's 3, and we never get anything at Luton. So that's a huge game, which might define who finishes 3rd and 4th. But I'm not too bothered, because either way we'll get an advantage going into the playoffs, and I wouldn't be too bothered in playing Millwall. They're not on top form at the moment, so I would feel comfortable playing them in the playoffs, and I think anyone who finishes 6th I would feel more than comfortable playing if we finish 3rd, because to be honest, looking at the table, I think there's loads of teams who don't want to finish 6th, to be honest with you. Blackburn lost, Norwich won, Preston won, and looked like they could maybe do it, you know. Coventry, I think, drew to Swansea. West Brom lost to Rotherham, which was a shocker. Sunderland drew, and Watford lost to Huddersfield, who are on a miracle run. So yeah, I think we're looking at maybe Norwich. Well, Blackburn down to, I'd still say West Brom with their game in hand for 6th. So for me, I'm still confident in this Boro side, and I think people need to just relax. I still think we'll be fine. We head to Ashton Gate on Easter Monday. Again, we're on TV. It's a late kickoff, so all the other teams would have played before us, so we'll have a very good idea in terms of where we're going to be what we're going to need, where we're going to end up giving the result. And Bristol City are an impossible side to predict. They're very inconsistent, but they did beat Stoke at the weekend, and that's a result that shouldn't be sniffed at, because Stoke are a very good team and have been on a great run. So it depends on the Bristol City you get, and if I'm honest, you cannot predict what Bristol City you're going to get. What I will say is our record there isn't great. It's always a ground that gives me the jitters a little bit when Boro go down there, but this is a different Boro side who I hope will get the job done. And Johnny Howson, after the game last night, did say, that they saw the Burnley celebrations and would use that as fuel. And I think that's the perfect mindset. Look at what happened with Burnley, look at what they did in our own backyard, and use that as motivation for what Boro wants. They want that. They want the same result, but I think having it at Wembley is even better, even sweeter. So I think we've got the perfect motivation there to get back on it, and I trust that this team will, and I think we'll beat Bristol City. I'm going to go with a narrow win though. I think just given our form, I don't think we'll be at our swashbuckling goal-scoring best, but I think we'll get the job done. We'll get back on track, and the fight for third will move on to its next round. And yeah, I'm still fine. I'm still level. I mean, this is the head-to-head, as you can see. Bristol City are a bit of a bogey team against Boro, and recent results, we beat them in 2020 in lockdown, but they've beat us at the Riverside and beat us last time we went there and held us earlier in the season. So yeah, it's going to be a difficult one to predict. I mean, looking at Bristol City's recent form, it's a win against Blackpool, who are utterly dreadful, 2 defeats, a draw to Reading, who are a terrible away side, but then they go and beat Stoke. So who knows, guys, but I'm going to back Boro to win here, and I think my overall thoughts is that I'm not worried. I'm not worried about if Boro make the playoffs. I'm more worried about how we make the playoffs, because we need to make sure we go into the playoffs with some degree of momentum and form. I wouldn't want us going into the playoffs at the moment with 2 defeats, but I think if we can pick up that form again, go into it having won a couple of games, I think when it comes to the playoffs, momentum is absolutely massive, and your form going into the playoffs could win you the playoffs. So I'm more bothered about how we get into the playoffs and the form we're in, rather than if we're going to make it or not. I still feel more than confident Boro are going to get there. But that's it for today's video, guys. I'll be back on Tuesday to have a look and reflect on what hopefully will be a Boro win. I'm going to go 2-0, I think, or maybe 2-1. Not convinced we'll get a clean sheet, if I'm honest, but I think we'll win 2-1. And we'll maybe get back to third, although Luton have got Blackpool, I think. It's Blackpool, so they're going to win. They're going to win on Easter Monday. So we'll probably still only be 4th at best, and be 4th regardless, but I think we'll win. So guys, let me know what you think in the comment section below, what you think Boro's result will be on Easter Monday, what you thought of our performance against Burnley on Good Friday, and where you think that will, have Boro ending up come May with only 6 games to go. But as always, guys, please do subscribe for much more. I've got plenty of gaming content going on the channel at the moment, as well as, of course, Project Boroughs every time we have a game. And hit the bell so you never miss an upload too. And of course, if you do want to see more amazing analysis from each and every Boro game, the Boro Breakdown lot will be overlooking and reviewing both the Easter fixtures early next week. So do check out the Boro Breakdown podcast for that. But until next time, guys, thank you so much for watching. I'll see you all next time.